On Sunday, the 13th of June, I took off on an epic 4-day trip around Israel, which is actually my third trip around the country and second trip solo. This video documents said trip. Please enjoy. What is good, you guys, and welcome to my solo trip around Israel. This is round 3 actually. Here is Chrissy. She's locked and loaded and ready to go. I'm just gonna show her in a minute. I am in a place called Erez Forest. It's somewhere around Gaza, not too far away from Sderot. Such a great day for a trip. And of course, as I said, here's Chrissy, my bike, the NC700X. You can see she's locked and loaded for a road trip. We have saddlebags. This is my sleeping bag. This is my tent. This is a sleeping mat. I have a gas stove over here, some clothes over here, rock straps always come in handy, my lovely phone charger, Bulbasaur, which got shades, and of course the frunk. Here I carry the water, and when I'm out on foot I leave my jacket around here because it's very hot to walk around in a 4-season jacket. And of course my gear, helmet, gloves, jacket, 4 seasons. Look at the view, man. I went through my usual route, which took me to the scenic fields outside the Gaza Strip, where I climbed a steep hill. The view from the top was worth it, but coming down was a challenge of its own. Now, I should say that growing up, I was a very sheltered kid, and I didn't go on trips like this until I got my first bike when I was 20. So I take it really slow when I go down steps or mountains or whatever, because I don't have the experience most people have. The fields were turning into desert and I was getting hungrier. I skipped the usual gas station junk food, and at Golden Meir National Park I picked some fresh carobs from a tree. It's bitter. I don't know if it's ripe. I got seeds. I went on to Mitzpe Ramon, got some gas, and picked up some falafel at the city. Now I just had to find a spot where I could eat at peace. I went to the outskirts of town and found this place, which had a great view of the city, as well as a weird rock formation on a hill. I decided to investigate. At first, I thought it had something to do with the army, but turns out it was a resort. The steep hill made me stop at this spot and eat my proper lunch overlooking Ramon Crater. No disrespect to carobs, but this falafel kicks ass. I stopped to film at the usual touristy spot, where a nice IDF soldier stopped to offer me help. I went down through the twisty road and thus began my journey to Eilat. After a lot more desert, I arrived at the city, got me a coconut ice cream, took off my jacket, and went for a ride. I set up my tent, saw some of the local wildlife, and got to cooking my first ever meal on a camping stove. It turned out better than I expected. What I didn't expect, though, was how windy it'd get at night. I think I'm gonna catch a cold. The wind is pretty intense. I busted out my Yukon sleeping bag, which is suited for minus 12 degrees. I closed every air vent and made myself some tea. I woke up many times at night, made more tea, and when dawn came, I decided to officially get up and start my day. Good morning, guys. Check out this amazing view. If you can't afford to stay by the beach at Eilat, you're broke. So I'm feeling good. I'm gonna start packing the tent. Tired. Woke up a lot. Got refreshed. With the bike loaded up, I went to get some groceries for the second day, stopped to make my breakfast, and left the city before heading into the nearby mountains. At the Red Canyon, I saw some cool plants and attempted my first makeshift tripod shot with a rock and a cell phone. The desert went on, and I frequently stopped for refreshments. I stopped for refreshments, got my coconut water, which is a good source for electrolytes, a lot healthier than Gatorade, that's for sure. It doesn't have sugar, doesn't have a lot of calories, and a bun, because I'm hungry. Just gonna chill here for a while, and then I'm gonna continue north. What nobody tells you about the desert is how monotonous it can get. Let me just step out. This is what's on my right. This is what's on my left. And that's been going on for tens and tens of kilometers. And I'm not nearing the end anytime soon. I kept going, with only my bike and the music in my helmet to keep me company. Don't ask me how I took this shot. Eventually, I made it to the 101 Inn, got some coffee, and saw the only camel in the entire desert. I lay down a bit, looking at the sun through a tarp, and after some rest, I continued through the desert. It was time for me to climb the Scorpion's Ascent. It's an old road that once led to Elad, but it's been closed off and neglected for a long time now. I also attempted some more tripod shots. Sorry, no habla inglés. I rode up through the curves and got to see one of my favorite views in the country. It was as if I had a whole desert to myself, for better or worse. Also, apparently, the Vespa Club paid a visit to this place, and if the Vespas could manage that, so could I. I rode through the Israeli savannah, enjoying the views, until Chrissy decided to take a rest abruptly in the middle of a dry river crossing. Yeah, so I'm breathing pretty heavily right now. I picked her up after dropping her in this sand. I thought it was going to be like the rocks in the beginning, so I cranked a bit of throttle and I dropped the bike. And it's not easy picking up an NC. No, it's not. But we did it, and there's no major damage, no damage at all. She was protected, everything was protected. The fall was like in 25 kilometers per hour, so no biggie. We keep going. Just to show you guys what I mean. It started off like this. It's hard packed. I didn't think much of it. 1 second of not looking. Because you see, the left side is fine. The right side where my bike is not fine. And I just swerved there and crashed. But that's okay. Not my first time crashing a road bike off-road. Won't be the last, that's for sure. With a few new scratches, we dusted ourselves off and headed into the small desert town of Yerucham. There wasn't much to see in the city itself, so I headed to check out their local lake. Most of the forest road was paved, with the last stretch being gravel. We walked slowly to the shore, enjoyed a good lunch, and headed north to the city of Dimona. It wasn't very eventful, and after 2 days in the desert, I decided to head north to see some different views. The wind kept tiring me, and I stopped for some more coffee and something sweet to boost my sugar levels. We rode onto the outskirts of Beit Shemesh, looking for a camping spot in Britannia Forest, and while I was there, I found this amazing view, as well as a torn-up flag that I picked up. With the high wind and the lack of sleep, I decided to sleep at my dad's place in Zikron Yaakov, where I enjoyed a hot shower and slept on his couch. It was now the third day of my adventure. I packed up and rode to get some gas, as well as some groceries. I headed northeast, The scenery got steadily greener and the roads more interesting. I stopped near Afula to check my front brake. It was fine after I looked the contact point. More footage! It is now day 3 of, I don't know how long this trip is gonna last. I don't think it's gonna be a week. I don't have enough country to do this for a week. I'm starting to understand more stuff about me as a traveler, as a biker. Behind me, I don't know if you guys can see this from the quality of the camera. Oh, here. There's a gorgeous valley, and of course, even more gorgeous, this thing. We're gonna continue over there, because over there it's Jenin, apparently. And I did not know that it's gonna be Jenin, and I don't want to go to Jenin. With all due respect to the people who live in Jenin, I prefer not to visit, especially with everything going around in the country. So we're gonna continue east. In Afula, I saw this weird yurt tent structure. And in a nearby forest, I saw some local wildlife. I wanted to stop and grab something to eat, but the sign said no. I rode on, saw Bojak's parents out in the wild, but enough horsing around. I went to visit the city of Tzfat, or Zafed? Safed? I don't know. The mountainous city was a blend of gorgeous views, old-timey architecture, and stereotypes. I took a few pictures, and after that went to explore the northern Galilee for a bit. I rode through Mount Naphtali and tried to eat my lunch in peace. Sitting around here in the woods, trying to eat, and there are just a bunch of wasps here. I can't seem to get them on camera, but there are a bunch of wasps here, just chilling with me. I just came through a forest road. There's a bunch of gravel there, and there's also some kind of cattle fence. I don't know how to translate it, and I had to walkie ride all the way from over there to here, and I actually walked with the bike, scared shitless because I was losing traction. But what's an adventure without some fun? Can you see the wasps? No, you can't. I rode back through the woods to have lunch with my good friend Ronnie, and then headed south. I was originally going to camp by the Sea of Galilee, but I took the wrong turn and ended up in Carmiel. At this point, I covered about 1,200 kilometers, and I was exhausted. I rode back to my dad through Haifa, where I saw a pride flag right next to a mosque. I love the diversity of this place. On day 4, I practiced my upside-down Metallica, and went off to visit my dad in his new workplace. We had lunch, and I rode home through hellish traffic. The 1,400 kilometers of riding around the country were officially over. Alright guys, so I'm just finishing editing the final touches of this video, and first of all I want to thank you guys for watching. It's a long ass video, so really thank you for watching the whole adventure. I hope to bring more good and quality content in the future, especially when I get a new helmet camera. And also I wanted to say that my final thoughts after this trip is that it's great to do a long road trip, but it's even better if you have a plan. Because I already did a trip around Israel once, and it was fun because I had to prove myself, my worth. But here I just did it for the heck of it. I didn't have a goal, I didn't have a plan. I just said, okay, I'm gonna go there and then I'm gonna go there. But you're not really thinking about it. And when you're doing a long trip, you have to have a certain goal in mind. Because if you don't have a certain goal in mind, you're just roaming, and that's good. But I found that what makes a trip really noteworthy is a good companion, that's preferable. You can do a trip alone, you can go do a trip with a companion, a goal, and obviously knowing what you can do and what you want to do. Just because you can rough camp doesn't mean you want to rough camp. Just because you can ride a 125cc doesn't mean you want to ride a 125cc. Just because you can cook on a gas stove and eat rice all day doesn't mean that's what you want to do, etc., etc. So think long and hard about who you are as an adventurer, who you are as a person. Make small trips like the ones I did, or even smaller ones for a few days, and then you have a pretty good handle if you want to take it a step further and actually go on a really long trip, like a few weeks, a few months, a year maybe. I don't know what your ambitions are, but the most important thing is you guys keep riding no matter what you ride, and enjoy the road and stay safe. I love you guys. See you in the next time.